The storm did not care that one of them was a billionaire CEO and the other was an ordinary woman trying to rebuild her life. It swallowed the luxury yacht in towering waves, shattered every plan they had made, and erased every sign of civilization until only two frightened survivors remained on a lonely island surrounded by endless blue water. The expensive suits, the polished speeches, the titles, and the wealth meant nothing anymore. Hunger did not recognize success. Fear did not respect power. And as the days passed with no rescue in sight, one impossible question would change both of their lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, forgiveness, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the Unfolded Story Hub channel so you never miss another unforgettable story. Emma Carter was 28 years old and had spent the last 3 years fighting to put her broken life back together. After losing both her parents within a short time and struggling through financial hardship, she accepted temporary work as a hospitality coordinator aboard a luxury business yacht that carried some of the country's most powerful executives. She believed it was simply another job that would help pay her bills. She never imagined that the trip would become the beginning of the greatest test of her life. Among the passengers was 38-year-old Daniel Lawson, the respected CEO of one of the world's fastest-growing technology companies. Newspapers described him as brilliant, disciplined, and impossible to impress. Employees admired his leadership but feared his cold personality. Behind every successful business headline, however, Daniel carried invisible scars. Years earlier he had buried his wife after a long illness, and since then he had hidden every emotion behind work, believing success was the safest place to escape loneliness. When dark clouds gathered over the ocean, the captain warned everyone to remain inside. Within minutes, the peaceful cruise became a nightmare. Waves slammed against the yacht with unbelievable force. Equipment failed. Communication systems went silent. The vessel struck hidden rocks, and chaos spread faster than the rising water. Emma found herself helping terrified passengers into emergency boats while Daniel stayed behind to assist the injured crew. A massive wave threw both of them overboard before either could reach safety. Hours later, Emma woke up on a quiet beach with sand covering her face and salt burning her eyes. She thought she was alone until she noticed someone lying several yards away. It was Daniel, unconscious but breathing. She rushed toward him, dragging him farther from the incoming tide before exhaustion forced her to collapse beside him. When he finally opened his eyes, there were no reporters, no assistants, and no security teams waiting for him. There was only one woman who had saved his life without asking who he was worth. The island looked beautiful from a distance, but survival quickly revealed its harsh reality. Fresh water was difficult to find. Food was limited to coconuts, wild fruit, and the occasional fish they managed to catch. Every sunset reminded them that another rescue had failed to arrive. Every sunrise demanded another exhausting battle against nature. Emma had grown up spending summers camping with her father, so she knew enough to build a simple shelter from fallen branches and broad leaves. Daniel admitted he had never even started a campfire without help. For the first time in decades, the powerful executive had to learn from someone whose salary had once been less than the cost of one of his business dinners. Days slowly became weeks. Their conversations changed from survival plans to memories they had buried for years. Emma spoke about her parents, whose kindness had taught her that real wealth was measured by compassion instead of money. Daniel shared stories about his late wife and confessed that after losing her, he had stopped allowing anyone close enough to hurt him again. On the island there were no business meetings, no endless emails, and no carefully built walls protecting his heart. There was only silence, honesty, and the woman who somehow made each impossible day feel a little less frightening. One afternoon, while searching for fresh water deep inside the jungle, Emma slipped on wet rocks and injured her ankle. The pain was intense, and walking became nearly impossible. Without hesitation, Daniel supported her all the way back to their shelter despite cutting his own hands and feet on sharp stones. He spent the next several days gathering food, carrying water, and refusing to let her feel guilty for slowing him down. Emma realized that the cold CEO the world feared was disappearing. Beneath the expensive image had always been a deeply caring man who simply forgot how to show it. The weeks turned into months. They marked passing days by carving small lines into a large tree near the beach. Hope became fragile. Sometimes rescue planes flew too far away to notice the tiny smoke signals they desperately created. Sometimes storms destroyed everything they had built, forcing them to begin again. Every setback threatened to break their spirits, yet every challenge somehow pulled them even closer together. One evening they sat quietly watching waves crash against the shore beneath a sky filled with brilliant stars. The silence felt heavier than usual because both of them secretly wondered if anyone was still searching. If the world had already accepted them as lost forever, what future could possibly remain? Emma looked toward the endless horizon and realized how much her heart had changed. She had once seen Daniel only as a wealthy businessman far beyond her world. Now she saw a gentle soul who shared every burden without complaint, protected her through every danger, and gave her hope whenever despair threatened to win. As another lonely sunrise painted the ocean golden, Emma found herself overwhelmed by uncertainty about tomorrow. The question escaped her lips almost like a prayer carried by the wind. She quietly asked whether, if they never left the island, she would have to marry him so they would never face the future completely alone. The word surprised even her. It was not a proposal born from desperation but from months of discovering the man behind the title. Daniel looked at the waves for a long moment before smiling with tears in his eyes. He realized that for the first time since losing his wife, his heart no longer felt empty. The island had taken away every luxury he possessed, yet somehow it had returned something even more valuable, the ability to love again. From that day forward, survival no longer felt like punishment. Together they improved their shelter, planted seeds from the fruit they collected, and created better signals for passing aircraft. They laughed more often. They celebrated small victories like catching enough fish for dinner or finding a new freshwater stream. Their strength no longer came from hope of rescue alone but from the certainty that neither of them would ever face another day by themselves. Nearly 5 months after the shipwreck, a distant helicopter appeared during one clear afternoon. At first they feared it would disappear like every plane before it. This time, however, the rescue team noticed the enormous SOS sign they had carefully built from white stones across the beach. Emma and Daniel waved burning branches until the helicopter finally circled back. Tears streamed down their faces as they realized the nightmare was ending. Returning home proved more difficult than surviving the island. Reporters surrounded Daniel with endless questions about the missing CEO who had miraculously survived. Business partners expected him to return immediately to boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. Emma quietly prepared to return to her ordinary life, believing their extraordinary bond belonged only to the island. But Daniel refused to let that happen. At his first public appearance, instead of speaking about financial losses or business recovery, he thanked the woman who had saved his life twice, once from drowning and once from living without hope. He announced that the greatest treasure he brought home from the island was not survival but love. Months later, on a peaceful beach surrounded by family, close friends, and several members of the rescue team, Daniel and Emma exchanged wedding vows. There were no extravagant decorations meant to impress the world. Instead, shells collected from the island decorated the ceremony as reminders that life's greatest blessings often appear after its darkest storms. Their story inspired millions because people realized that love is not built by wealth, status, or perfect circumstances. It is built by sacrifice, trust, patience, and choosing someone every single day, even when life becomes difficult. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the Unfolded Story Hub channel for more unforgettable stories that celebrate kindness and the strength of the human heart. Special request, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were stranded on that island, and do you believe true love can grow from the hardest circumstances? Sometimes life strips away everything we think defines us so we can finally discover who we truly are. Emma and Daniel lost comfort, certainty, and the world they once knew, but in the middle of isolation they found courage, healing, forgiveness, and a love that no storm could ever wash away. Their journey reminds us that even when hope seems lost beyond the horizon, kindness can become the light that guides us safely home, and sometimes the greatest destination is not the place where we are rescued, but the person standing beside us when we are finally found.